welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Neil, John and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, it's a pleasure to have you. Before we move forward with the housekeeping, is there any traumatized souls left in the Discord server from the discussion we had in the pre-show? Obviously, if anybody needs to share their pain after that experience, we'll do that and get it out of the way before we keep the trauma level high, because that's what's going to happen. Anybody at all, this is your opportunity. It's almost like saying mercy. Mercy, no more. So in the pre-show, before we get into housekeeping, we were discussing the cognitive pain that is experienced by anti-flat earthers going against their own rhetoric because a flat earther has challenged it and debunked it. So in order to retain the same rhetoric, they have to engage in cognitive dissonance, hold the original position and hold the debunking that they use against a flat earther who's refuted it. Well, that is all well and good for a limited time, but over the long term, that's not going to be good. So that's what we were discussing in the pre-show, just so it doesn't turn into an in-joke at the beginning of a live show. So now you're up to date. Anybody got anything to add from G+? If you need to share your pain, now's your time. If not, we're going to move on with housekeeping. Secretly, I'm hoping someone's going to share their pain from Discord in case you can't tell. No. 10th, do you fancy doing the housekeeping today? I can give out some answers then.
Okay, let's see. Any evidence of axial rotation? The Earth-based variety?
I was just going to say, I see it in a lot of places, but not on Earth base.
Where do you see it, Neil?
Well, I just seen a machinery out here rotating. Crane spinning around.
He said of the Earth-based variety. He did qualify the question, Neil. Come on, be reasonable.
At the end, he said it. I was about to say it, and then he said of the Earth-based variety. Come on, Nathan, pay attention.
Yeah, so
oh, my bad.
I took him there. Yeah, I took him there on purpose. So what do you observe when you observe axial rotation of the non-Earth-based variety?
You mean the crane? Well, I observe it spinning. It rotated around to get to the other side of the building.
If you're on the rotating platform that you're describing as having a rotational value, then you'll probably observe things not attached with Coriolis deflection. That would be them appearing to move because you're actually moving.
So something's moving, right, Neil?
Correct. Yes, the crane is moving.
Does the crane operator feel the crane moving?
Oh, he feels it. I'm watching it from the window, though. So what does that make me?
The window watcher?
You're not on the crane. Well, if this is to be translated to Coriolis effect, right, a crane has got a pivot point, right, so it can spin around 360 degrees, pick up bricks and drop them somewhere else. Fine, we all understand that. Well, if that crane operator turns right, as he swings the crane, yeah, he will experience the Coriolis deflection. In other words, if he happens to forget that it's him moving a stick to turn the crane, and he looks out the window and goes, wow, that high-rise building looks like it's coming towards me. Yeah? Now, if he continues on that delusion, because it's an illusion that he's describing, it looks like the building's coming to get you. No, the building's definitely not moving. But it looks like it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and bang! Yeah, his crane hits the building. Because it's him moving and not the building. But it looked like the building was coming to get him, and in the accident report, the building came to get me. I looked it up, it was Coriolis force.
For that axis, and that radial swing you're describing, wouldn't we need a radial value to measure before we could start describing this not actual force?
Well, that leads me to the next question. Any evidence of Earth radius, the R value?
You'll need that to describe the radial value when you're giving an axial rotation. So, yeah, if you were to describe how quickly the building was going towards the crane, you'd need the rate of the rotation. Well, you'd get that from R, wouldn't you, now? So, I haven't got an R value. I'm really sorry. Can't get one for Earth either.
Well, how about any signs of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve?
No, the horizon's not Earth curve.
We're not doing so good here. Okay. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
What's that?
It's the bending of a pseudo-Riemannian for space-time in mathematics currently. Or, if you prefer the stale, mouldy, out-of-date Newtonian, it's the concept that mass, things like helium, attract mass, things like the claim mass of Earth. And helium goes down, go boom boom, because it has mass. Obviously, that's out of date by 106 years old, which is why I position it in the nonsensical rhetoric of mass attracting mass when it doesn't. But currently, it's a conceptual medium known as pseudo-force space bending.
Well, in both of those gravities, you have to live on a ball first, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, you need a radius for that.
He says we'll need the
Is that
R
all
value.
you got to say?
He says we'll need the R value 10th, the one you asked for earlier. For that.
Yeah, the one that the one that we already got a non-answer for.
Is that going to be your answer for everything?
Well, you can't get it. I mean, he asked us if we had a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon, and, you know, we haven't. And you need that to get R. So they're a bit, well, buggered.
It's also what they say. All we say is you don't have R, you don't have R, you don't have R. That's another thing I heard.
Well, do you have to have R to have any evidence to the distance of the sun?
Oh, you'll need R for that.
All right. Well, let's change it up a bit. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of cosmology, astronomy, or astrophysics?
No, all those fields provide is pseudoscience. They've got plenty of phenomena to study. They could easily formulate viable hypotheses, but they don't. They just come up with just so stories, observe and declare, and then put it in a classroom labelled science.
They don't consider it that way, though. They consider themselves to be scientists.
Have they got any viable hypotheses?
No, they can't.
No, not science then.
Any hypotheses?
So it's science, but not by the scientific method, Neil? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think somewhere along the line they got confused with what science is and what pseudoscience is. And they chose the pseudoscience side for monetary gain.
Well, when they attribute science to how a car tire works, how far do you think they'll take it on other subjects?
I hear it on commercials all the time.
Right. So is it viable?
No. It's just a sales pitch.
All right.
Who are the people
any
behind
evidence
this
of-
manipulation? Are they really obviously ugly, horrible people that can be seen through
look like
very
they
easily?
live.
Or
Hold on, you talking about the people in the advertisements that say now comes the science part as they waft their beautiful blonde hair over their shoulder? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why do they have to be ugly, horrible people?
Well, you got to put the glasses on to see them. We have our glasses
because
on.
they're manipulating us and lying to us.
Hold on, are you telling me that the 2021 idea of a sexy scientist in a low-cut lab coat with glasses right on the tip of her nose staring down a pencil at you, you're telling me that's not what a scientist is?
No, it
What
is
if-
to the world, but hold on. Once you put your sunglasses
Yeah.
on and you see, that's when you see the monster.
They're
What
not
if, what if they're being lied to?
Nah, when she was chewing that pencil telling me how Pirelli's grip better, I'm pretty certain she knew what she was talking about, man. She said science.
Well, there is a radial value to that one. The tire, that is. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No. You'll
Why
need
you
R for that.
laughing? You need R for that.
Isn't that
I-
just some crazy way of trying to justify how there is a magnetic field on a presupposed sphere?
Yeah, the magnetic field is a lot to do with the deception in terms of how we navigate and how the maps are laid out. So if you've got a mass deception and thousands of maps, and you can see the quadrupole map on screen now. This is a quadrupole azimuthal equidistant globe projection, North Pole centric. That's what you're looking at on screen right now. Is this North Pole? I think this might be... Actually, I think this is South Pole centric. I don't know. No, it is North Pole centric, sorry. Had to look for a second there. But there you go. There's a way of looking at the magnetic fields across Earth with a quadrupole system. Shout out to Cami Nodal, who originally sent me this image. But you can see how, if that's the way that you're navigating, it's very, very distorted. Well, what should we focus on? Should we focus on just the magnetic fields and what they are and how they're used? Or maybe we should focus on something that's at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth so we can argue about that said presupposed spherical Earth in the presupposition when we debate about whether or not we've got a molten core, for the automatic assumption on both sides that Earth's a sphere, and whether or not it's got a molten core will be the debating point. I would suggest that if you've got thousands of maps and magnetic lines are things that are deceiving people into going round in circles in some instances, it might be a good idea to have the actual argument point be focused on a farcical molten iron core rather than the magnetic field lines themselves.
Right, because even if you debunk the molten iron core, Earth's still a sphere in their minds. So
Exactly.
they can say,
Exactly. Still begging the question either way. Go ahead, sorry, I stepped all over you.
yeah, that's sort of how they do their Coriolis argument, whether they expect to see things deviating at 15 degrees an hour, thanks, Bob, or everything's rotating together. As long as you are discussing how Earth is rotating, they're happy.
Well, let's see if this question makes them happy. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Answer is in the question. Necessary antecedent means it is absolutely required to have the gas pressure you describe in the question. So the necessary antecedent to have gas pressure is a container. So to ask if you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container is self-defeating.
Or a very good question.
It's a very good question when you consider that the sky is claimed to be a vacuum.
Not the gradient.
What about it?
Well, they're
How do
using
we have a gradient?
What precedes a gradient?
Container for
Gas
gas pressure
pressure.
to develop in the first place?
Oh, go on, John. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that they use that, to calculate. They take and say, well, there's a vacuum between the ground and Mount Everest, and it's not filling that. So obviously, this massive volume of the universe is possible to not be filled by the gas.
Well, filled by what? What are you filling it in?
The gas, just a gas.
Yeah, and it's gas pressure. So how do you get gas pressure, and what is the volume that it's in? Sounds eerily like some kind of container.
Right, but I was just describing how they do the trick.
But not much of a trick when you ask them what pressure is and how to get it. And really, the simplest way to defeat this is show us gas pressure without containment.
Oh, how easy it is to be arrogant when you've got hindsight. We all fell for this. You say it's not a good trick. I beg to differ.
Well, if you're paying mind to it versus not paying mind,
see, I don't know if I agree with that either, because at one point in time, you couldn't say everyone in the world was a heliocentrist. This idea had to come into play. So somebody as an adult had to accept it that was paying mind.
Well, I was going to tie it to my story with my science teacher. When I, as a kid, as curious as a kid is, I kept asking questions. I said, well, how's that possible? How's this possible? I mean, on all different subjects, including the Earth and evolution, everything. And he just says, look, shut up. Stop asking me this. I don't even believe it. I just got to teach it. Well, something happened to me at that time. It's like, wait a minute. Okay. So they're just saying things. They can't answer my question. I'm going to go play football. So I stopped being curious.
But not all teachers are like that either, though.
Well, I thank that one for being that way, because it was pretty obvious what was happening.
Because realistically, if they wanted you to stop asking questions, they would just use the trick of you don't understand, and everyone would laugh at you.
Well, I don't think he was that kind of a teacher, obviously. He probably had issues with it, and he just wants to get on with his day and clock out and go.
Or you can have a teacher like, or you can have a teacher like mine that just sent me to the back of the class all the time.
That the conclusion of housekeeping?
Yes, that's the conclusion.
No, you didn't do molten iron core.
Neil, he did all of the housekeeping. It was epic. Weren't you here?
He's in the back of the class.
Well, every time I pass the elevator, I lose you. So I didn't get anything John said.
Oh, notice the information that comes out later. I missed half of those.
I do. I can't stand this job because I'm missing everything.
Okay, so quick disclaimer. Arwin's not here today because he's on strike. So basically, yesterday, Arwin's a very big Star Trek fan. And as a consequence, he was quite hyped up about the idea of William Shatner going up very high in the sky. Now, at a point, knowing nothing about this, I was happy to accept that until they showed what was claimed to be the interior shots of the journey, and it was a stage with high wire, making every claim, every part of the claim, fake in all regards. Now, upon pointing that out, Arwin said I can't remember what words he used, but belligerent and didn't listen. That's his criticisms of me. Fair enough. You know, when he was saying it in my chat today, when I was re-airing that members only currently video, that debate from yesterday, Arwin was in the chat going, you guys aren't exercising reasonable logic, or words to that effect. So no, go ahead.
No, I recall that too, but I recall a little different tenor to the conversation. He agreed that part was faked, or very highly possibly faked. So he agreed with that. And then he wanted to say, but there's still a chance that the rest of the stuff happened. And to which we all gave our own versions of, okay, fine, assume it did happen. Assume they faked the scenes on the stage and then they actually went up and came down. Well, what does that tell you? That he knows that it's a lie and he's an actor. Well, let's assume that it did happen, option 2 now, and they never went up. It was just all imagery and they got dropped from some other airplane and they came down. Well, still, you have the same problem. If they fake in one part of it, they're either faking all of it or they're not faking part of the rest. But if you're in on the fake, why do you trust that guy? And it was more of a, he wanted to have some kind of honor for William Shatner after he said William Shatner faked it. He said that.
Arwen said he wanted to retain the honour of William Shatner.
No, he said that he agreed that that scene in the capsule that you're describing is fakery. But he wanted to have what you said, that good feeling about Captain Kirk, so to speak. And so he wanted to attribute some other things that are valid to him. And
But
we
he's
were all
an
saying, who
actor.
cares?
I mean,
Right, but that's what we all said. He's an actor, and who cares?
it's because
And
hold on the current telly box narrative, right? It seems there's a misapprehension about what's being presented. Now, we can talk to the normies who haven't grasped yet that what is presented on the screen isn't necessarily as it seems. Now, that to us seems really obvious, and to anybody who's in the act realm listening, they'll go, yeah, obviously. You know, the TV lies, you can orchestrate and manufacture whatever you like. Now, notwithstanding that we here typically all believe that, in this case, there is a presentation that's given a slightly different slant. What we're saying, well, he's just an actor. Well, there might be a bit of a disconnect to anybody hearing that. And this will maybe level that disconnect. It's William Shatner playing William Shatner in the stage performance of Jeff Bezos' space rocket launch. That is the piece that has been prepared to be presented to the public. Now, let's not go to the whys and wherefores, or it's propaganda for this reason. That's what I mean by whys and wherefores. Let's not cover that. It's just, what is it? Well, Mr. Shatner, would you like to appear in this piece? What's the piece? Well, you'll be strapped to a trapeze and dangled around in space. Something you're fairly familiar with, I assume, Mr. Shatner? Oh, yes, I've got lots of experience. Excellent. That's what we'll be doing. We'll pay you X amount. What's the name of my character? Well, it'll be you. Oh, so it'll be William Shatner doing it. Yeah, William Shatner as William Shatner. Okay, so it's me going into a pretend rocket then. Yeah, that's right. You are going to be on screen pretending. Everyone watching will think that's the whole point of this act. To make everyone watching think you're going to space. Like you've done 1,000 times. All good? Here's your check. See you on Monday. Thank you, Mr. Shatner. That's it. It's just that simple. But because he's got his name and there's no credits to it being a dramatisation, you know, they just haven't wrote the word dramatisation above it. But do they write the word dramatisation above the Star Trek presentation? If you were an alien and you happen to land, a heliocentric alien from outer space, and you happen to land on Earth, and you tuned into Star Trek, yeah? Would it suddenly be glaringly obvious that this is just a act? You know, the whole point of every presentation in terms of TV suspension of disbelief is to make you believe the characters are in that situation. When they land on a far-off place, you want to believe that they're actually there. If they say it's Australia, it's actually filmed in Miami, you want the conveyance of the imagery to make you believe that these people are in Australia doing whatever they're doing on the coral reef, right? Doesn't matter that they're not really there, so long as you can suspend disbelief that they're there. And that's the same principle when it's a TV made for public consumption presentation that doesn't have the disclaimer that it's a dramatisation. It still is. It's William Shatner dramatising the notion of this fake place called space. And that's all it is. So what that it's got his name ascribed to it rather than Captain Kirk's name ascribed to the character. There's no distinction being drawn because there is no distinction. And who is it that made that point, that there is no distinction between the sci-fi reality and the space reality? Well, he did. William Shatner did. What's the difference between science fiction and science? According to William Shatner, there isn't any difference. Well, that's because the science in those quotation marks is the pseudo-science bullshit world of space. And he's carrying on that like he has since he's been in this career. So what's the shock? Well, because in this regard, it's him supposed to be doing it. It's not him doing an act. That's not made abundantly clear to Arwen. So Arwen's going to take it that William Shatner's out there doing his William Shatner thing. No, he's playing William Shatner, pretending to be in space as himself.
Well, again, you have to listen to Arwen's words, so we have to be fair. He admitted that he believed that the capsule scene was faked. But he wanted to hold on to a possibility that the rest of it could have happened. To which we all
Well,
said...
I think he doesn't want to accept that Shatner might lie. That he believes in the character of Shatner.
No. There's no lies. No. I'm not going to tolerate that. Shatner's a trained actor. He's a professional, and he's doing his job. He is performing a piece, and his purpose, Shatner's purpose, is to get his audience, in any capacity, doesn't matter the desires of the director and the producer in terms of what capacity they want, his job is to get the person watching what he does to suspend disbelief. That's it. That's his job. So when you say, well, he's a liar, yeah, because he's got his name above the door in this instance. So if you want to take it as the performance is being led to you, then William Shatner, the person, is a liar. That's not who's on screen. It's William Shatner, the actor, playing William Shatner. Now, the fact that you haven't picked up on that can mean that you describe him as a liar in those contexts. I've titled my last video, yeah, The Lie Wire. Because I don't want it to be overtly the case stated that William Shatner, the person, is a liar, because he's not him outside his front door as him, without any coercion, without any check, without any obligations to fulfill, completely unbiased, on his front door in his dressing gown and pants going, what are you doing here? Well, we just want to know if you think space is real. That would be a different story. This is not that. This is an orchestrated, pre-produced event that has been done and performed by an actor.
I would like to rebut that. Because under the same criteria, you could not say the astronauts are liars.
Yeah, I know that. I'm getting there. I'm just playing... Arwen's not here, right? I've got to play devil's advocate. There is no Nathwin. This is how I do it. Just deal with it.
Oh, there was a movie that you
I've got to put the... just for John, hold on. Just for John. I've got to put the converse position, though, haven't I? And, yeah, you've stole my thunder completely. If I make that argument for Will Shatner, then I can say, well, Tim, what's his name? Oh, let's just let Sleeping Warrior in. The same argument could be had for him, then. Oh, well, he's just playing the character of Tim Peake. Is that his name? I think it is. Hey, Sleeping Warrior.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Hey.
Hey. Have you joined because you're into this conversation, or have you got news, or should I be introducing you into this conversation, or what?
I just watched the clip of Arwen yesterday, and it was obvious that I didn't realise that Arwen was a fan of, is it Star Trek or Star Wars? But I was watching that footage live. Well, I say live, recorded live with my missus, and I said to her, "Do you really think that that's taken off the way that they show it?" And she went, "It looks real." I said, "That clearly looks like a cartoon." I said, "Can you not distinguish that from real world?" And she said, "But why would they do that?" I said, "To make you believe in the lie." I said, "Do you honestly think the footage is real?" And she went, and I said, "Come on." I said, "If it's not real, what does that do to that footage?" And she said, "Well, it's just for telly, innit?" I said, "There you go." I said, "They're making you believe shit that's not true."
It's made for telly. It's a performance for telly. It's for
And you were right. You were right, Nathan. If the evidence presented is presented to prove the positive claim that blah, 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 and then that evidence is faulty, then that positive claim then fails. I can't believe Arwen was arguing it. I was like, come on, Arwen, you know the score. If the claim is that A, B, and C, and then they produce the evidence for A, B, and C, and then it turns out that evidence is wrong, that claim fails. So that means William Shatner did not go to wherever it was he was supposed to go, 350 kilometers high or whatever it was. He didn't do that. You were right.
Yeah. But, I get it. It's one of those things that it's hard to deal with because in many ways you could say, well, surely it's possible to just send him up high and then have him come back down again, right? Surely that's easy enough to do. We don't even have to say he's lying about anything. He's just gone up to somewhere quite high and come back down, right? Surely he can do that. No. If they did, they would. They'd just show the footage. It would be dead simple. You know, he could be in there taking bloody Snapchat pictures. Hello? He'd be on the cell phone. Why wouldn't he be?
Yeah.
No, none of that has occurred because it's all been orchestrated. But to Arwin, no, it was in his mind possible to do, and so is it in my mind. I hadn't seen any of this footage till yesterday's show. It was the first I'd seen of it, literally there and then. Maybe you got my immediate reaction to it. I don't watch any of this crap, so you got to see my immediate reaction. And right the way till 90% to the end of the conversation, I'm like, yeah, they probably have sent him up high. Big wow. So what? What's that prove? You know, it didn't bother me, and I'm sure I was the same. Yeah, I'm sure Shatner could go up high. He's got the money. He's got the connections. He even said it. So what's to disbelieve? But then suddenly when you go, hold on, part of what comes with is he could just possibly go up high. Yeah, but he definitely didn't. Because look, here's the fakery. You know this fakery. Yeah, I do, says Arwin. Well, that's where Sleepy Morrow says, well, at that point, unfortunately for Arwin, it's all bets are off. But that doesn't mean we can't empathise with him. He wasn't happy. You know, I don't like to see Arwin upset. Today when he was telling me off in my own chat, I just accepted it. I was like, okay, Arwin. Not in a condescending way. I'm just like, I don't want to argue with you. I don't want you to be upset about this. And he is. So I have got empathy. When it comes to people I like, I've got a lot of empathy. And I don't want Arwin to be upset about this. But he is. And, you know, unfortunately for him, that was captured on an after show. And I was going to be trimming that out because it's absolutely relevant to the current state of affairs. And there's going to be people who might not tune into the other much more technical-based conversations that we have about something like Coriolis in favour of seeing the repetition of the sky's not a vacuum, we'd all be dead, there'd be no gas pressure, and a claim that we went up to an area that was near to an area that violates the second law isn't true. How do we know? Well, because here's the footage from inside the studio on high wire. So that's the end of the claim.
Let me give a totally
But did they
valid...
shoot anything up? Did anything
Doesn't
go
matter.
up in the air?
Maybe. Let's just take it as read that they did, Neil, just to draw a line under that. Yes. They sent a penis-shaped firework into the sky. Yes, they did. Did it go up?
That's
Just
what
in
I
case
said.
anybody in the chat wants to go, yeah, they did send a rocket up to that high. Yeah, okay. And?
Well, that's what I said, and I was told in Arwen's chat, why don't you take a ride to Florida next time and see it go up with your own eyes like I did.
Hey, I covered that yesterday too, though, didn't I? So what did you see, Mr. I went to Florida and watched it take off? Well, I watched a cylindrical penis-shaped object go into the sky. So that's what we know happened then.
Exactly.
No further inference can be drawn from your observation point down on the ground. Did you see a little CGI Shatner get in? Because for some reason, when they showed him inside, that definitely wasn't inside what you saw fly into the sky. I can tell you that with absolute certitude, because what we were shown from inside the rocket was actually on a set, with men dangling on wires. So that wasn't inside. They didn't have a little lit studio with men on wires inside the top of that penis. What you saw was just a firework.
Let me just give a direct equivalence. I feel the pain with Arwen because, like, Knight Rider was like my favorite TV show ever. Like being a kid.
Hold on,
watching
don't
a black
draw this
car.
as a. Hold on, I've got to stop you straight away. Knight Rider is real,
Why?
so you can't really use this as a comparison.
Yeah, but listen. There's a point though, right? So when I got to about like 10, and it was like early 90s, I actually saw a film called The Making of Knight Rider. And when they were showing how they did turbo boosts and they played it down, like slowed it down to frame by frame and showed that there was no engine in these cars. Do you realize how much pain I felt when I saw that? I thought it were real, man. I thought turbo boosts were I thought he was really doing it. And I saw that and I was like, no way. That's the pain. I feel it. And I get it, Arwen. I get it.
Okay, we interrupt this flat Earth debate for a quick Knight Rider trivia quiz. How much did was it Universal? I believe it is Universal. Yeah. How much did Universal pay for the Trans Am in dollars?
They were giving it free. They were
No,
giving
they
them
weren't.
free.
Nope, incorrect.
No, they were. They were giving them free. Because
Wrong.
If you look into it.
Just accept it. You are wrong. Anybody else got to guess?
Hold on, let me Google it.
Don't
$5
Google it.
each?
Just guess. Any other guess? Any
100,000.
advances on zero, which is wrong?
Zero is correct.
It's
Five?
not
Shipping and
correct.
handling.
Can you stop
$5?
saying
It
the
is
wrong
correct.
answer? It's wrong. They did not pay zero for that. They paid an amount changed hands. You're wrong.
That's not true.
Yeah,
Did they
it
pay
is
shipping
true.
and handling?
Jesus wept.
The cars,
Who's having
the
this
cars
quiz?
came from a train crash.
He'd be the guy at the
Santiago
pub
made the
pissed,
car.
right? Telling me all about who released the album first when they're wrong.
You're gonna lose
$8.
Anthony today now?
Can I just give you the answer? They paid $1 for that car because it was part of...
£1.
Ruin the end of the story, I would, Neil. They paid $1 for all of those vehicles, right? The ones that are cars that are used on those shows of that era. Because there was a train crash and a whole bunch of cars fell off and they could no longer be sold. So they were sold to lots of picture houses for $1 on the condition that it could never be used on the road. It could only be used for production. And then once they had finished with them, they had to be scrapped. So once Knight Rider finished, that Trans Am was crushed.
Let me just add to that. That is absolutely true. There was a train. There was a wreck with about 5 of them on it. It wasn't just one. There was 5 of them. And you're right. I didn't realise he'd paid $1 or £1. But you're right. All those cars were destroyed. But there were several cars that were screen used that they didn't destroy that weren't part of the train wreck. It's cool. There's a cool channel on.
That's true. No, that's also true. There are other stunt cars that are like the Pontiac that screen used or a hero car. Those hero cars were definitely scrapped, but there are certain examples that still exist. You're right. Trivia. I love Knight Rider too.
Channel.
Everybody loves Knight Rider. Let's geek out some more. Anybody going to object from G Plus or Discord?
I take it you found out the Knight Rider Historians channel on YouTube too.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's quality.
Yeah, it's great. No one else is geeking out with us, though, Anthony, so we might have to draw close to this. Bummer, eh?
I'm just so glad that it wasn't the Shatner equivalent because that would have devastated me.
Yeah, why couldn't Arwen be someone like Hasselhoff, someone actually cool?
Hasselhoff's interesting because, cool was what he was when he did Knight Rider. Then he went uncool when he did Baywatch, and now he's gone back to being cool for being uncool.
Hold on, you're telling me being on set... Hold on, I've got to slow down. On set with beautiful women all day. You're telling him, bum move, Hasselhoff. You having me on?
Yeah, he wasn't cool in Baywatch.
Anthony. Get that.
Sorry.
Do you know why he wasn't cool in Baywatch? Because he was having the middle-aged stretch, wasn't he? He was at the beginning of the middle-aged stretch, and he kept sucking it in, and it was really obvious.
Yeah, you're right. At this stage in my life, I really do feel that if someone came along and said, would you like to spend all day on the beach with beautiful women, being paid for it and filming stuff, I'd just say, you know what, I might not look cool. People might consider me as having a midlife crisis. Now I'm going to turn you down.
No, that's super
he wasn't cool, though. He was cool in Knight Rider, and then he went uncool, and now he's back to being cool for being uncool, which is weird, but it's true.
I don't know.
How tall is that dude?
I don't know. Pretty tall, I guess.
6'5".
All right.
6'5".
He was probably less cool during Knight Rider because he was such a bad actor back then.
He was
No,
all right.
that was quality. That was 80s style acting. That was the height of it at the time. That was brilliant.
I agree with Anthony. That's the way he acted. It's the 80s, man. It's the 80s.
Plus, I'm pretty sure Hasselhoff's a flat earther.
Yeah, I think he might be too.
Okay, but what Anthony just demonstrated was exactly what happened yesterday. He's saying that if this was done with someone I have a connection with from the movies and the topic. So with Arwen, it was Star Trek and Captain Kirk. And with Anthony, it's Knight Rider and cars and things like that. So the whole point is, okay, I know it's fake, but listen, I want to have good feelings about this guy on other fronts. And now if I have to admit this is fake, then everything is fake.
That's not what Anthony is saying, though, Tent. I'm sorry.
I think
That's
what
not
I'm
what
trying to
Anthony-
say is that when I was about 10, I peeped behind the curtain the way Nathan describes it, and I saw all the set behind it, and it was like, that car's got no engine. How did they do that? And that's what happened with Arwen yesterday. He peeped behind the curtain and didn't like it.
Well, I read what you said different, Anthony. I read that when you saw Mitch Buchanan on the beach with Pamela Anderson, right, because that was his name in Baywatch, that was the moment you found out he wasn't Michael Knight.
That's another valid interpretation.
No, he was just undercover.
Where was Kit?
In the
He's
beach
been
house.
reclaimed.
Chilling.
Kit's been reclaimed. They put that together.
Telling me that the DeLorean is not a time machine.
I'm sure you could convert
No.
Kit to a time machine. You just need a flux capacitor.
Kit could do anything.
Well, I don't know about time travel, but I'm sure he could be retrofitted. Just need to bring in the A-team and chuck them in a barn with a few bits and bobs. They'd have it done in no time.
Yeah.
All he had to do is hook up with Doc Brown, and Kit would be a time traveler.
I would like to say that Arwen is awesome. I think he's one of the smartest people I know. He's a very clever, if not irritating sometimes with it.
I totally agree. Arwen is basically ace, but in the interest of balance, Arwen's a dick. We all hate him. He's gone on strike over some guy he's never met who's fat and old. How dare he?
Yeah, but
That's
what
I
this
said
does
to him,
demonstrate,
Chat, when you're one of the smartest guys I know, and you're being really silly about this. And this is before I knew he went on strike. I didn't know
Guys,
that.
there's a bigger picture though. What Arwen demonstrated yesterday is the same pain and cog disc that ball earthers have when we show them things like gravity's not a force. How do you have
Good
gas pressure?
boy.
Right? Arwen was doing the baller thing yesterday.
Jesus, you're going to really
good
piss him
analogy,
off with that
right?
statement. If there's one thing that will send him into an absolute rage, that will be the statement. Thank you for that, Sleeping Warrior. That'll piss him off no end, using him as that
But it's
example.
true.
That was a good one.
It's
Well,
true.
I
I didn't mean to piss him off.
No,
I find
it funny.
I just want to get that clear. No, I don't. I'm not suggesting for 1 second that you are intentionally trying to antagonise Arwen, but I think I know Arwen reasonably well, and I think you comparing the cog disc of a baller to that cog disc that he had will be the thing that pisses him off the most. And it's absolutely true. I've now got to restate that because I didn't want it to seem like you were trying to piss him off. No, you're making a good point, and everyone agreed with you.
Well, what I find really strange is the one day Arwen is after stating he's not going to be here is the very same day that Tony turns up.
They're the same person.
They're both Will Smith.
I knew it.
Tony can't be interrupted by Arwen now when he speaks because he's not going to be here.
I think that's just a
there's
coincidence.
flowing conversation.
So did I hear right? Arwen's on strike.
I use that term, yes.
I thought he just had to announce and relieve that he was actually a former member of the fundamentalist church of Shatner. Do you know what I mean? And that's all he was up for. He's actually on strike now.
Well, he made a declaration that he's not coming on.
Yesterday, I was blown away by Arwen's ability to defend Shatner, and I've listened to a bit on his show today. And he's doing the same.
I've heard that there's a rumor that he's actually tied himself to the Johan Cruyff Arena in it's Ajax's home stadium. He's tied himself to that with a banner saying Nathan is a bastard.
No, let's not take the piss out of him. Right. What Adam
Taking the
said,
piss out of you.
I'll roll with what Adam said. Adam said he's bowled over by his inability to defend Shatner. Well, Arwen's now pissed off and expressing it at me, and he's got every right to, and I'm going to let him because he's my mate, and I'm going to stop you guys from taking the piss out of him in this scenario. Whatever he's got to deal with, for whatever reason, regardless of how benign or funny we might find it, he's still our mate, and we still like the guy. So let's not take the piss out of him, because I still want to use the useful examples. And I'll highlight how irritating it is for Arwen, just so he knows that I do empathise. And that's the only reason I'm highlighting it, not so it's made more clear that he'll be pissed off with it. Because it's a good point. But when those are the ones that cut deep, right? The ones where, well, it's true. Yeah, but that's why it's more irritating than anything. Right? So...
I'm not taking the piss.
I know you're not.
Genuinely aghast and was shocked yesterday that what we've just pointed out there, it was all obvious to us. But Arwen, I'm shocked he's still actually having to deal with that, and he's still in the same position as yesterday. And to find he's not here today is unusual. And like I say, I'm more taken aback by Arwen's response. That's actually shocked me, and he is my mate. And I'm not taking the piss. I am saying to him, bloody hell, you've shocked me in terms of how entrenched what you're prepared to do to defend Shatner. So it was just very straight. He's not defending space, and that's what's blown me away. Not defending Bezos, just Shatner. The rest of it's bollocks, except William Shatner's not a lie. And I like the man, but we are in a point of ignoring the bloody obvious here. So I'm
He'll
shocked.
deal with it. Probably 24 hours. But, you know, at the
That's what I thought
moment,
today.
he's pissed off. How it came up might be the thing that's pissed off about, you know, whatever. It doesn't matter. But, you know, what he said to me was, I'm not going to be on for a whole week. Fuck you. That's what he said.
Well, you know, this isn't the exact same thing as a baller either. I wouldn't go so far as to say this is the same reaction ballers give, because it was an idolization of Shatner. You know, it was very personal to him. And that's why it bothered him so much.
Right. You might see similar reactions when you do put down certain astronauts. You know, if we were in the 70s wave of flat Earth and people were taking the piss out of recently crowned heroes of America, then you can imagine that the reaction might be the same. Especially if people... I'll give you an example. I'm going to drop Dave Weiss right in it now. Dave Weiss has made it clear on many occasions that he didn't realise that space was fake when he first came to flat Earth. You know, that came later or further down the line. You just hadn't contemplated it. You don't know what you don't know or what you should be contemplating. So, you know, the order of events seems a bit odd, but you're like, well, you just hadn't contemplated it. So, given that the order of release for certain people on the anti-flat Earth side can release a lot of their beliefs about how things should work on a sphere and or substitute them for things that don't match the rhetoric so that they can retain a single thread of something that means that their faith is still just about there. This is what we're talking about in the pre-show, right? The pain that must cause over a long period of time. Anthony, you might have some words to say on this. So, given that we've been around for a long while now, and we've seen a lot of cognitive pain from the anti-flat Earth side of the argument, what do you think the long-term effects of that might be on people of that disposition? I don't know, I think it might fuck them up over the long term. Yeah, I think you might be right, Anthony. That's basically the sentiment that we said in the pre-show. Yeah, I agree. Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you for your input. Glad to have you, Anthony, as ever.
I was making a brew in the kitchen. What did I miss?
Nothing. Me taking the piss out of you. I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought you'd ask me a question, and
I did, but it was a long question that you didn't get. I will repeat it. Mike 808's just sent a super chat, so I'll repeat the question after I shout him out. So, you religious fundies, the zealotry, you guys must have claiming a decade, the 80s, is the cause of David Hasselhoff's bad acting. Mike, I mean, I can't really disagree with you from the super chat. It is an absolute outrage.
He's actually a really good singer. I think he is, anyway. Anyway, your question, Nathan.
The question was, we've been around for a long while, and in that long while, we've seen a lot of cognitive pain from our opponents. You don't have to nod along. And the cognitive pain is now worthy of contemplation in terms of its effects long term. So I'm asking, what do you think might be, given that we're already pretty much long term, might be the effect on our opponents? That's it.
They'll just ignore it. It's like finding out that your partner's cheating, or finding out that your next door neighbour stole off you, and you find it out, and it's like you have to confront it, or you have to ignore it. They're going to ignore it.
You can't ignore your wife cheating. You can't ignore your wife cheating forever. You know, that's not what's going to happen.
I know, but I'm just using it as an example.
How long did you ignore it for, John? No? This is not personal experience?
Yeah. Well, the stuff prior to the Black Swan, like I could compartmentalize it all and say, you know, I was measuring a radius, and then put everything through that lens. Now that that's gone, there's nothing really to hold any of their claims to reality. I don't know how they're doing it, and it can't be healthy.
How did you compartmentalize gravity not being a force? You must have heard of that before you come across Black Swan.
Check out the lawyer.
Well,
immediately starts pulling on somebody who does have the experience close to hand rather than just answering the question. Well, I just want your opinion, Anthony. I'm sorry, John. I just want your opinion on what you think might be the long-term effects on our fundy opponents for having to deal with this cog-dis for this long.
There's three types, isn't there? You've got your hardcore protagonists, like Jeremy, for example. He'll probably commit suicide because he'd never be able to consider the possibility that he'll ever have to admit that he was wrong all this time, and he'd have to do that publicly. He would never accept that. So suicide is likely for somebody like Jeremy, like Red's Rhetoric, like Wolfie or whoever, because they're too much of an idiot to stand up and say, do you know what? I was wrong. I didn't realise. Then you've got the average bloke that'll be like, yeah, I think it's a ball, but, you know, I'm 50-50. It's not that big of a deal to me. And then you've got the other guys that were totally and utterly deceived, and they'll fall out with it. A bit like Arwin, they'll fall out with everybody because of it. And they'll probably go home and batter the dog because they can't handle it, and they'll have a meltdown. And I don't know, what do you do with them? It's three types of ball earther. It's not easy to predict. There's not a stereotype for them all.
Well, I don't know. All of those fall under one category. We described it as going to the nut house. I mean, you took it to the end, extreme. So you've had the depression, you've had the mania, you've had it all, and then you're on the suicide. Man, you were right at the end of the end of that path, man. You were further over the cliff than at the end of the path, if you know what I mean. But there we go. That's kind of what I was hinting at, and that's the conclusion we came to in the pre-show. Now, if you have been affected by suicide or anything other mental disability, then I'm sure there's helplines out there. So I'm not one of those channels as much as we're postulating this at this point.
Well,
sorry, John.
Hold on a sec. The reason I said that in the pre-show about them coming to attack, say, you, Nathan, is because they've already devalued flat earthers as people. That's how they talk to them as such trash. So it's not a hard step to think that if they're willing to kill themselves, then the idea of them attacking one of us isn't that far away either.
Right. Again, something we covered in the pre-show. I mean, this is right on the cut. This is as fine on the edge of what I'd consider to be tolerable by YouTube as we can get, by the way. What's going through my mind to terms and service. And go on.
While we're on the subject, and before Brian gets in, because I know he's trying, can you go to Master B and show those three pictures? Go on, Brian.
Thank you, Dent. Well, what I would say is that the direction it's going to take is people like Wolfie and whoever the other main people are, Fight the Flat or whatever. They're just going to attack the more well-known people that they've debated against, which is going to be most of the people on this panel, and other people outside of it, obviously Bev and Brandon, whoever else. They're just going to try and personally attack those people more and more, and they're going to think further and further into absolute ridiculousness in what they believe and what they're claiming. Because I actually have people claiming. And I'm going to say it again because it doesn't seem, I don't mean this in an insulting way, but I'm just going to be honest with you. It hasn't seemed to sink in with you. I've had people claiming that there's curved radius for circles. That's what I've had people. And people supporting them. Well-known people on our opposition side. So
if you wanted to support the geometric illiterate, there is a PayPal link below that will go to a worthy cause that actually pokes fun out of the geometric illiterate. I don't know what I'm saying. Support this channel. That flat fellow sends a super chat saying Nathan doing voices deserves a super chat. Well, thank you very much. What have we got up 10th?
Well, we have, and I listed the link in the channel. This is another Flat Earth channel. And it's got a picture of the windows from the capsule looking out, and you could distinctly see curvature of the Earth because of the view of the straight shot there into the window to the right. If you go to the next picture, it's the same capsule, but on the ground, but now the ground is curving.
Oh, didn't we cover this yesterday? This capsule. This is a set. So you're telling me
That's the whole point.
You're telling me that
No, that's the whole point.
You're telling me that the images that are projected onto the green screen claim to be windows in the set where they had high wire presents curvature of the horizon.
I'm just saying that when people take time, just like when they have the show, everybody's saying he went up there, he did all this stuff, and then we had our stay. Well, I started searching to see if somebody else was covering the subject like we were, and I found this channel, and then he shows that whether you're on the ground or supposedly up in space, the curvature is there through the windows, all right? But then the last picture is what I want to talk about. I think this is a great shot because this is Captain Kirk from the backside, looking out. Now this, if you're a Star Trek fan, you know that's his captain's chair. Just go into it. Come on, you know what I'm saying. And he's looking out. And the first thing out of his mouth when he comes down in that whole fiasco, he doesn't mention it. Nobody mentions it, Earth curve. But they mention Mother Earth and how fragile that blue thin line is. Are you kidding me? One time to go that high, if you actually did it, you're looking out that window like it shows here. And if you saw it, that'd be the first thing out of your mouth.
Meanwhile, the horizon's not Earth curve. We only have one horizon, and the horizon in the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking, Earth curve calculator is physical and geometric, is claimed to be blocking boats and buildings, and measurable with those maths. The horizon we experience in reality, that would be the apparent position where the sky meets the land or sea, is not a physical geometric limitation to your view. It is merely apparent, horizontal, and not physical. The horizon's not Earth curve. So regardless of what's presented on the CGI claimed to be windows from a set with high wire, the horizon's not Earth curve.
I'll say it again. People are claiming that radius lines are curved. How many times I say this before I get some reaction out of you?
Yeah, Brian.
Fourth time in about a week.
I don't know what I can do. I'll put together a fund to help support the geometrically illiterate. Yeah? And then I'll encourage people to support it. In the meantime, while I'm developing that fund to help the geometrically illiterate, you can smash the PayPal link, and I'm sure I'll be inspired to make a committee, maybe turn it into a charity, and eventually help the anti-flat Earth minority understand that a straight line is what you will require to have a radius, and that it isn't bent. But in the meantime, yes, there are people out there, Brian, you've said it twice, it is important to stress, that will state a radius is bent. Now, these people are thick.
Then we have...
Sorry.
Right, then we have... Bob, the fallacy guy, say something about a circle that doesn't represent a circle?
He said circles don't have radii.
It just... This is like Bev coming up with bendizontal. They have no straight lines.
Nathan, are you finishing bang on 3 o'clock, or are you going to overrun?
Am I going to overrun 3 o'clock? What are you asking?
Are you going to shut off in the next 2 minutes? Because I want to do something, but if you're going to shut off, I'm not the time.
I'm literally... I mean, he asks me this when I'm on camera. I've got my remote, I've got my lights, I've got everything ready. What do you want to do? Go ahead.
Quick presentation about Wolfie. Let me screen share.
Just do it. You don't have to ask him. Just do it. We try to keep him on.
No, he doesn't want me to say with that while he's got his lined-up presentation about to go out live. So he asked us. That's fair enough. Go ahead, Anthony.
I'm just trying to present my entire screen. There we go. That'll do. Share now. And then which screen? That one. All right. So let me know when it's on.
Well, tell me when it's looking nice.
All right. Hang on.
Well, at least one thing came out of this. We got Nathan to confess with that.
All right. 10th, are you paying attention?
I am.
All right, so here we go, Nathan. Present it if you would.
I am.
Right, so Wolfie's video, a flat Earth claim debunked in 33 seconds. It's only like 33 seconds long. It's only a week old or less than a week old. And basically what his claim is that this circle of altitude, when you actually put a glass over an orange, this is what he considers to be a debunk. But what he's completely and utterly ignoring is that when he does this, any second now, which is going to be there, he's got a curve in the middle, right? So there's no circle of equal altitude. So when I tried to point this out to him, all he could do was call me names. So I just deleted my comment and just went away and ignored him. But do feel free to go and watch this video, because Wolfie's trying to tell everybody that the circle that the glass creates of the orange is a circle of equal altitude. 10th, what do you think?
I'm back to my discovery, and the only thing that matters, a sextant can only work over a flat surface. It's an angle measuring device. All these other things have nothing to do with that tool. If he wants to say this is what he wants, he can't use a sextant for it, because it's a right angle triangle for triangulation from the GP of the star from the zenith position, which might be 4,000 miles away. So if he wants to say this is the same circle of equal altitude, he needs a right angle. He needs a right angle from the observer from the intercept line with the azimuth direction to the GP. And the tool itself can never work with a curved surface. So he can't tie this to a sextant. I'd like to see the tool he wants to use when all along they've been saying it's the sextant.
Effectively, you could just say that the circle of equal altitude shown in the picture doesn't have an equal altitude.
Yeah,
Well, that's
precisely.
you, but
Precisely, Anthony.
he's
The circle,
tying
the-
it. He's
precisely. The circle that he's showing
Yeah.
doesn't have a radius. It's not two-dimensional. It doesn't have a baseline, which is what 10th's saying. In order to use the tool, one of the lines to get an angle has to be straight. That's your zero line, your baseline. Well, they described it in the same, or whoever this is describing it the same as Bob, the science guy, tried to describe it. He said it was a semi-chord. Well, if you draw around where the glass is and then slice off the top section, yeah? Well, then moving to the centre from the outside edge, that's the radius. It's still got to be flat and straight, but they want to say it's a semi-chord. Well, that's the area that they dissect through this glass if you were to chop off what the glass is pressing on the orange. Well, that's still flat to have a circle of equal altitude. So to say, well, this is how it represents itself, it's no, you still need a straight, flat baseline. So therefore, you've got to have the dissection of this, a chord line, and then say that the radius to the centre of that flat circle is what you'll use for your flat baseline. It's just not representative of the surface. Go ahead, Anthony.
It's worse than that. I'll go after Anthony, please.
Go ahead,
I was just going to
Anthony.
say, when you say if you identify the circle and then you use half a chord to get to the radius point, if you will, that's essentially making a curve flat.
Yes.
But we don't have the bulge. This is getting rid of the bulge by doing that, right?
Yeah, you're slicing off the top to make it flat, to give you, well, what's geometrically required, a straight line to the centre, which is your radius value, and then you can say that the chord that you drew through your sphere acquires you your area of equal altitude. But as you correctly identified right at the start, what's under the glass? Not an area of equal altitude, is the answer.
Well, it's actually worse.
Go ahead,
Worse than
Brian.
that. Because it's on this very video that I left my comment that people are claiming a curved radius. I corrected Wolfie and everyone else on this. I pointed out that they're going to need chords to go through their sphere to get these angles for a start. And those chords or semi-chords are going to be less in distance than the arcs or half arcs that reside above them, right? And I have been nothing but attacked, and they've claimed that a radius of a circle in spherical geometry is a curved line. That's what I'm getting.
Okay,
and
let me just
Wolfie has attacked me himself.
before you repeat it. Sorry, just
addressed
before
it.
you repeat it, I want to show what you're talking about. Ah, damn, there's something that appears over the top of it. I can just about do it without this stupid G plus telling me whether or not I want to pin it. Yeah, that's better. That's great. So if you look at what Brian's saying is, if you take this circle and then slice the top off. That's your chord line, right? Well, a chord line with half of that chord line being from here to the center isn't the same distance as the top line down to the outside edge of the glass. Now that curved line is longer than the radius if you take the chord, which is to slice off what's under the glass. Well, that line to the center is shorter in distance than a line assumed to be curving over the top of it by way of a presupposition of a heliocentric sphere world. Brian's saying that gives you a massive discrepancy, because the line I'm drawing my mouse over now, that curved line, this is why they say you have curved radius, this nonsense, is because they've got an assumption of a curved line on the actual topography of the land, and to do the maths with a straight baseline being 0 on a sextant, you've got to take a chord line from the edge of the two sides of the glass, dissecting the sphere, slicing the top of it. Well, that radius value is shorter than the arc length over the top. That's Brian's point. I just want to make that clear with my mouse so you can see it nice and clearly what Brian's describing. I'll let Brian summarize, and then I think Anthony wants to get something in. We're still live, by the way.
Yeah, they're actually denying the chord. I have not had one of them say, oh, that makes sense. They're actually denying the chord that they need. They're actually denying that chord now and stating that the radius from they're stating a curved radius from the center of the orange down to the perimeter of the glass. That's what they're actually claiming. And they're denying the chord.
Yeah. So, no, there is no chord. What we've actually got is a curved radius. Okay, bye-bye, off you go to the nut house.
I just want to finish off by saying that, you know how we have like gas pressure out a container pinned on conspiracy cats, and Bob Nodell's got this claim of Earth rotation, and they always say, thanks, Bob. We should always now in future reference Wolfie, and we'll just say, sextants don't work on a globe. Thanks, Wolfie.
With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you tuned in. Smash the super chat. Thanks to Unitox Femu, who smashed the super chat just before the end, for liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!